Have you ever tried heat embossing without stamping? Today I'm going to share a couple of techniques with you, and I'm also going to experiment with heat embossing on washi tape. There's a 10% discount code in the description below, and while you're there, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's take a look at the supplies first. So here I have WOW in the navy. This is an opaque embossing powder, so it's not quite as glossy as some of your clear translucent powders. It's has a little bit more of a matte finish. And I have the embossing ink pad refill conditioner and freestyle tool on the left and the mixed media brush on the right. So the freestyle tool has a roller ball, and this is traditionally used to refill your ink pad. So you just roll it over your ink pad to get it nice and juicy again. It helps to refresh it. The mixed media tool has a brush in it similar to a nail polish brush, and you can use this in a variety of ways to brush the embossing gel directly onto your project. So we'll be using that today. I also have a selection of washi tapes. I have the round art washi tape from Ulta New here, and I'm going to fussy cut some of these circles out and use them as elements on the card. I also have gold strokes and gold stream washi tape from Ulta New. Both of these have some stripes on them that are gold foiled. So I'm going to start with the gold strokes washi tape here, and basically I just tore a piece off. I'm going to put this onto the card. Now this ends up being a complete fail, and you'll see why in just a minute. But I wanted to put it in here so that you could learn the pros and cons of heat embossing washi tape. So first, I tried the Freestyle tool. Now, because the embossing tape almost has like a waxy feel to it, there's not enough friction between the roller ball and the washi tape to get this to flow and put any gel down onto the paper. This works great on cardstock, but on the washi tape, it didn't really roll too much. So I switched over to the mixed media brush, and this is a great tool for anyone who's a mixed media artist because you can put a lot of gel down on your project pretty quickly. You can also do some dry brush techniques and a lot of fun stuff with it. And I'll link another video up top with some dry brushing that I did with the mixed media brush. Okay, so I added a few stripes, and now it's time to sprinkle on the embossing powder. And so I have the In the Navy embossing powder here, sprinkling it on, and yeah, total fail. So two things are happening here. One, you can see my fingerprints are all over it from me applying the washi tape, but also because of washi tape, it's wound up on itself. The adhesive on the back of the tape is sticking to the front of the tape on the roll. And so I think even though you can't feel it, there's probably some residue there, enough for the embossing powder to stick to. So if you do this, you definitely want to make sure that you use an anti-static powder bag. So here I have another piece of tape. I'm going to treat it with the anti-static powder bag. I'll go ahead and sprinkle on the embossing powder, and then here you can see how that turned out. I went ahead and heat embossed it because I'm going to show this again. Here I used the mixed media brush, and the embossing powder went on really well. Because I used so much gel, you can see that first of all, I didn't wait for it to dry long enough, and I wiped it right off. And I think that's because I had so much gel, it just didn't adhere very well. And I'll show you a little bit later in the video. I'll go back to that first piece of embossing tape and show you how that had better staying power than the amount of gel that I had on this tape. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off, get rid of that excess powder. I'm going to put another piece of tape on, and I'm going to kind of go in a different direction here, and then we'll come back to that original tape a little bit later. I went ahead and fussy cut out a few of these circles, and I'm just going to arrange them more like they're flowers or just design elements. And I chose 3 because I do like the look of odd numbers. So I'll just overlap them. That's the beauty of washi tape, is that it's semi-transparent, so you can see the other pattern through it. And I'm totally digging the navy blue with like the yellow, ochre, golden kind of colors. So that's always a favorite color palette of mine. So this time I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool. I probably should have used it a little more generously, but just make sure that you use that. And this time I'm going to run some stripes with a mixed media brush right next to this kind of, it almost looks like a watercolor brush stripe, this gold foil. And so I thought using the mixed media brush next to that for some thinner lines of the navy blue would be a good look. Now, I didn't feel like the embossing gel with the mixed media brush stuck very well, so I'm going to try glue for the washi tape. So I have a fine tip nozzle on my glue bottle here, and I'm just going to use that to put some dots in the middle of this when I'm turning into a flower. So this is art glitter glue, and it does dry clear, and I love the precision tip that's on the top of it. As always, I'll have all of the supplies linked down below for you guys. So I'm going to grab the In the Navy again. We'll go ahead and sprinkle this on, and we'll see how we do with using the anti-static powder tool. So again, I get a few stray kind of areas of embossing powder here. And again, I think that's just from me touching the tape so much when I'm applying it. So be generous with your anti-static powder tool. Maybe use it again right before you apply your embossing powder and your embossing gel. But you can just use a dry paintbrush to knock off the excess. I like this one. It's one that I don't use for anything else. I kind of just reserve it for this purpose. And then I'll sprinkle some over the glue here. Now it sticks to the glue really well, the powder does, so I'm just going to clean up around the edges, and then I'm going to give this a really good whack. I'm going to flick it pretty hard. You don't have to worry about it. This isn't a glitter gel, and because I have glue down and a lot of that gel, flicking it hard isn't going to cause me to lose any of my embossing powder like it would if you were using like an embossing glitter. With embossing glitters, I don't recommend that you flick your cardstock very hard because you'll lose all your glitter. So I'm just going to add a few more stripes down the side, and then we'll go ahead and heat set this. As always, before you start your heat embossing, make sure that you've preheated your tool. I have this on the highest setting, and I always start my heat embossing from behind and then come to the front, especially with embossing glitter, so that I don't blow it away. If you guys are getting value out of this video and learning something new, please be sure to like and subscribe down below. So I've gone ahead and done the gel, and then the glue also heat embosses just great. I didn't have any problems with it. I wasn't sure if the finish would look different. The finish looked pretty much the same, and I had great results heat embossing with the glue. I've also heat embossed with like double-sided tape, like score tape. That works amazingly well. I mean, the embossing powder sticks to that like nobody's business. So that's another thing that you can try that is different than just stamping with your embossing powder. So I'm liking this arrangement. I like the kind of uneven stripes that we have going on and that the dots are different sizes. Now here's that original tape. Now this stuck pretty well. You can see when I pull the tape off that it starts to flake off some of the gel parts. So I think that you could be successful. You could probably even stamp on washi tape and emboss it that way. I just think that the gel was so thick that maybe it just doesn't harden enough, if that makes sense, and that's what causes it to flake off. So I have a Mega Label Love stamp here for my sentiment, and I'm using a blue pigment ink to stamp this because I wanted it to match my navy blue embossing powder, and that'll finish off the card. I didn't add any additional embellishments, but of course you can. Here's the Altenew Mega Label Love stamp set, and it's one of my favorites. So here's the finished card, and I love the modern trendy vibe that it's got going on. The next card is inspired by this circle up on the top that we added the dots to the center. I really liked the look of that floral element, so I'm going to take just a roll of washi tape and add a pencil circle to the center of the card here. And I'm just going to use just an archival pin here and add some lines. So I'm just going to recreate all those lines. I'm going to add a lot more, so this will be more thickly filled in. But you can see I started with the cross and then I filled that in. I basically just divided each segment and filled it in as much as I wanted. Now you could go a lot more sparse with this. You don't have to have as many lines, but I do like the tightly packed lines, and you want to make sure that your lines are not all the same length. You want to have some variance between the length of your lines. Here I have the WOW embossing pen, and I'll just draw an oval dot on the end of each one of these little lines. They'll be kind of different lengths, so that'll add a little more interest to the design. And I decided to emboss this with a contrasting color. So here I have primary pink robin embossing powder. This is a translucent powder and it's super, super bright. It's a really bright pink, which I love. I think it goes great with the black. It did make my eye twitch a little bit when I was taking my photos because I like my cards to color coordinate, and this one kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, but I do really like the trendy look of it. I went ahead and finished the rest of the dots off screen. So here you can see that finished circle here. And I picked out a sentiment that says, "You color my world." And this is from the Alt New Across the Pond stamp set. And I'll stamp it twice. And then I heat embossed it with the same primary pink robin. But I kind of wish I had just stamped it in black. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. What do you think would have looked better? Just black for the sentiment or the pink for the sentiment? You let me know. So here are the two cards together. I had a lot of fun experimenting with the washi tape. I do think you can successfully heat emboss on washi tape, definitely with the glue, certainly probably with the pen or even with stamping on it. I think the gel was just a little bit too juicy and you were able to rub it off. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you real soon with more inspiration. Thanks so much for joining me today.